Willie Jung, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, the chance to talk with you about evaluation, about the SIP model, about a bunch of different topics. Thanks so much. Let me start off by just asking, how did you initially get involved with the SIP model, with Dan Stufflebeam and his work, and tell me a little bit about that.
Great, thank you. My pleasure, Dr. Pan. I first learned about Dr. Daniel Stufflebeam's CIPP model about 22 years ago from my professor, Dr. David Miller, while I was working on my PhD degree in research and evaluation methodology at the University of Florida. I was immediately drawn to the model and was able to put it into use right away. At that time, I was the evaluator for the National Science Foundation Succeed program. It's a 10-year NSF program involving 9 engineering colleges in Southeast United States, aiming at improving engineer education. Applying the SIP model in the evaluation of the Succeed program, I received the American Society for Engineer Education Best Paper Award and the Frontiers in Education Best Paper Award. Then about 15 years ago, I was working with several colleagues at East Carolina University on a service learning project. As the evaluator, I applied the SIP model and wrote a paper about it. Well, my colleagues, Dr. Chris Shea, said, why don't you send the paper to Stufflebeam and see how he thinks about your application of the SIP model? I said, for real? I didn't think she was being serious because in my mind, Stufflebeam was such a huge name, was a legendary figure, a giant in the evaluation field. So very much beyond reach. But Chris Shea found Dr. Stufflebeam's email online and shared with me and encouraged me to send it to him. So I sent my paper to him and didn't really think that I would hear from him. To my great surprise, I received an email reply from Dan the following day. And to my greatest surprise, he gave the paper the highest praise and asked if I'd be interested in writing a book on the SIP model with him. He said that for 40 years, he wrote many journal articles about the model, but had not yet written a book exclusively on the model. Yeah. And he had been looking for someone who used the model extensively with great fidelity to author the book with him. Basically, he asked me to co-author the SIP book based on that one paper, just one paper. Honestly, I don't think that he even knew whether I was a man or a woman. Because you can tell from my name, many people mistaken me for a guy when they see my name. Yeah. So needless to say, I was very honored. So since then, we exchanged our thoughts and ideas about SIP model frequently and started working on the model, the SIP model book. He also provided an expert consultation on several grant projects that I evaluated. We worked on the SIP model for several years, meticulously. He asked me to write a book proposal and kind of encouraged me to take the lead on writing SIP workshop proposals for AERA and AEA annual conferences. Thanks to his encouragement and mentorship, I, in 2012, as a co-editor of a Journal of Curriculum and Instruction, I received the Outstanding Contribution to Teacher Education Award by AACTE. And also, I was officially recognized by the US government as an outstanding professor and researcher. Over the years, our families also formed friendship. He and his wife, Carolyn, used to always send us a huge box of Florida oranges during Christmas time while they stayed in their Florida home to my husband and me. And those are the most delicious oranges we have ever had. When our book published in early 2017, very happy about how it turned out. Unfortunately, on July 24th, 2017, I received a phone call from his beloved wife, Carolyn, and learned that the sad news that Dan passed away the day before. I was deeply saddened. I was distraught, deeply saddened that the evaluation field lost a founding father, and I lost my co-author and mentor and a great friend.
Yeah, I remember when that happened, and I remember, for us, I think we're very fortunate that that book came out, because I remember learning about the SIP model about 20 years ago, and learning about it mostly through from here, here and there, like different articles, different chapters, and the checklist, of course, and some other things. And it was just a welcome addition to have that book come out finally, to devoted fully to the SIP model. And how did you all coordinate the writing at a distance? Was that a challenge? And you sort of how did that work out?
Email communication and phone calls. So we divided up the chapters. He actually divided up. We had about equal numbers of chapters. We write the chapters, draft the chapters independently. Then we exchange and we critique on each other's work, and we work each other's work to our satisfaction. Sometimes we have to hold phone calls to discuss. So it's truly a collaborative work.
Nice.
I enjoy the process and very humbled by the process, and it was a learning process for me.
Yeah, so nothing like writing a textbook about something to really understand it deeply. When you explain the SIP model to colleagues, to students, to others, and maybe you don't have a lot of time to do it, how do you sort of do it concisely? How do you explain the model and its unique sort of aspects, advantages? A lot of evaluation models out there, right? How do you talk about the SIP model? Explain. Yeah.
Sure. So this actually calls for an elevator talk, I guess. The SIP model is an easy to use framework that guides people to conduct sound evaluation step by step. The four letters CIPP stands for context, input, process, and product. The SIP model provides for systematic, principled evaluation of a program's context, input, process, and product. Essentially, these four types of evaluation address four fundamental questions. What needs to be done? How should it be done? Is it being done? Did it succeed? So context evaluation is often referred to as a needs assessment. It asks the question, what needs to be done, and helps assess needs, problems, assets, and opportunities within a defined community and environmental context. Input evaluation helps prescribe a program to address the identified needs. It asks the question, how should it be done, and identifies procedural designs and educational strategies most likely to achieve the identified needs. Mm-hmm. And desired results. Process evaluation monitors the program implementation process. It asks the question, is it being done? And provides a continuous and ongoing check on a program's implementation process. And finally, product evaluation identifies and assesses program outcomes. It asks the question, did it succeed? And is similar to the commonly known outcome evaluation.
Right. I find this model to be helpful. For me, it was very helpful because it's a great way to just teach about evaluation in general, because those four dimensions, a lot of times people will associate evaluation with outcome evaluation, not the other three aspects as well. So I find the SIP model is a nice way to sort of start at the beginning, sort of the what needs to be done, what are the needs of the organization, what should the goals and objectives be, just starting there. But also it's nice and flexible. You don't necessarily have to do all four components.
That's true, yeah.
And they don't necessarily go sequentially depending where the program is in its life cycle, right?
And depending on when the evaluator gets involved in the program. So you may do not need the context and input or even the process. So all depend, again, like you said, flexibility is the beauty of it.
Is the input evaluation typically associated with program design. Is that are they one and the
That's true.
same, or they overlap? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, input evaluation essentially is the program design. It draws on all great minds and all literature and the current existing resources, and to formulate a plan to achieve the desired results to meet the identified needs. So program design is another word for it, I guess.
Great. What would you say are like the unique advantages of using the SIP model that maybe you don't see in other evaluation models or approaches or frameworks?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few. Overall, the SIP model is a comprehensive framework for conducting formative and summative evaluation program and projects. It is configured especially to enable and guide comprehensive, systematic is the key word, examination of social and educational programs that occur in the dynamic, septic condition of the real world. It is, as you know, one of the earliest model. It was developed in the 1960s, so it's a half century old model. Yeah. Yet it's continuously updated, so it's still one of the most widely used, tried and true evaluation approaches. It also provides directions for assessing a program context, input, process, and product, which is unique. And also, it's remarkable that a fundamental tenet of the SIP model is that evaluation purpose is not only to prove, but also, and more importantly, to improve. It not only guides evaluation specialists to effectively carry out evaluations, but also provides for meaningful involvement of a program stakeholders throughout an evaluation process. So I think another feature is that the SIP model is not an obscure, highly technical approach accessible only to highly skilled research methodologists, but a common sense approach that can be understood and applied by a wide range of evaluation clients, program staffs, program constituents, as well as evaluation specialists. Overall, the SIP model is an overarching, comprehensive approach that, when applied correctly, can meet users' full range of evaluation needs. And so users can be confident about the model's soundness, generalizability, and utility.
There's a participatory aspect to the model as well, like how to engage stakeholders. That's mentioned. I remember.
Yeah, participatory empowerment and the utilization focus. So it draws all these great features and just make it a systematic approach. So I think it certainly have a lot of advantages and strengths.
Would you say that the framework it's a living framework, like it's something that is being added to or evolving?
Yes,
to some degree. There's certainly being used quite a bit.
Over the course of 50 years, it's continuously evolving. And as you search the literature, as also you see in the appendix of the book, it's used in all of the disciplines, in hundreds of dissertations, and we are continuously updating the model. Recently, I have been working with his son, Joe Stafford Beam, on some technical part of the model to maybe develop an app or something that people can use to do the checklists. So
nice.
Yeah. So modernize the SIP model, I guess, in a way.
Really interesting. So the current checklist, the one that's on the Western Michigan site is the current one. Is that right?
Those are there are quite a few Western Michigan websites. They were developed in 2014. So this book was published, as we discussed before, in 2017. Mm-hmm. And these checklists are actually more up to date. So when Dan and I were working on the model, we updated those checklists.
the checklists that are in the book itself
are the newest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you might there might be a sort of the idea then of taking it and putting it into electronic form and making it interactive.
I think in today's world, electronic form, will make it more useful and user friendly.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be great to see what you all come up with. I didn't realize that his son was working on that and was an evaluator. So that's really interesting to hear.
And his son is actually a rocket scientist and working for NASA. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. But he was involved in the SIP model.
Makes sense. I wonder if he's used it in his own work.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So for students who take an evaluation course but are not necessarily studying evaluation to become evaluators, what do you hope that they'll bring to their future work from what they learn in evaluation? Because in our programs, students have to take evaluation, but they're not necessarily they're not. It's like a research methods class or statistics. It's like one of those additional classes they have to take, and then they focus on their main discipline. If it's developmental disabilities or criminal justice or whatever. But we try to bring into that evaluation. What do you hope that students will bring into their future work from what they learn in evaluation classes? What would you say?
I think an evaluator's perspective or mindset is what they should bring to their future work. So evaluation is a process of determining something's value. And anyone, not just evaluators, often need to determine something's value. That is to conduct an evaluation, often in the form of informal evaluation. Throughout history, people necessarily have conducted investigations to guide decision-making and reach value-based judgments. Evaluation is a naturally occurring phenomenon. So I think it's very beneficial for any students to take an evaluation course, or at least gain some knowledge about evaluation, even though they are not learning to become evaluators. It will help them to form the habit of judging things holistically, objectively. People with evaluation training won't jump to conclusions, often wrong conclusions, based on no or partial evidences. So I think, having the experience of taking an evaluation course will benefit them, indefinitely.
Is what you're talking about, is it consistent with this notion of evaluative thinking?
That's true.
Bring that into an organization or into one's mind or one's practice. Right. So it's a bit of that. The best way to learn how to do evaluation, what do you recommend to students and beginning evaluators who are starting out? How should they? What's the best way that they can really learn how to do it in a competent way, and most of the quickest way to gain fluency?
Mm-hmm. I think not be intimidated by such a term, a technical term, and take a common sense approach, follow a step-by-step guide, and learn by doing. I recommend following the SIP model because of its user-friendly nature and that it's not highly technical. I truly believe that our SIP evaluation model book allows anyone to easily learn to conduct sound evaluations that meet the professional evaluation standards.
Yeah, I find the book to be helpful. We have not the entire book, we have portions of it that are required reading in a few of the classes that I have. So I'm very grateful that you developed the book. Can I ask you what other related resources, of course, is the book, any other resources that you find to be helpful related to evaluation that you recommend for colleagues, students, beginning evaluators? What are your go-to resources, suggestions?
Yeah, first and foremost, as you mentioned, the book, the SIP book, Especially, I want to point out the updated checklists that are included in the book, as well as the list of existing studies that use the SIP model. So in the appendix of the book, I listed all the existing papers, dissertations, reports, monographs that use the SIP book. So they really serve as an example of how the SIP model can be used. So that's a great resource. Another, Western Michigan Evaluation Center provides a wealth of resources, including many checklists, not only Dan's checklists, and like Michael Scriven and so forth. So, and also they developed a lot of online modules that people can use to learn in a dynamic, interactive way to learn about evaluation. Third,
sorry, those modules, those are at Western Michigan. They have them through the, or is there a different one through the evaluation?
Yeah,
center?
Western Michigan Evaluation Center.
Okay, great.
Later last year, I was involved in developing those modules and provided video recordings, several segments of video recordings that contribute to these online modules.
Okay.
And a third one is the AEA website provides the contact information for hundreds of evaluators and members. So you can easily reach out to people for questions and to form collaborative teams.
Great, that's really helpful. Thanks. So in what ways do you think evaluation, can evaluation be used to improve our world? The issues that we're facing, dealing with misinformation, fake news, as we've been struggling with that now for years, global climate disruption, social, economic inequities. Any thoughts about like our role, our place, and our disciplines' potential impact there?
That is a great question. Evaluation absolutely plays a critical role in a society. As Dan and I wrote in the SIP evaluation model book, evaluation's most important purpose is not to prove, but to improve the world. Sound evaluation should be used routinely for value judgment and decision making in a society, especially in today's world, to prevent harmful misinformation, misguided judgment, and uninformed decision making. For those can do disservice as well as harm to our society. Moreover, I think more regulations should be put into place to ensure that evaluators are qualified to conduct evaluations, and the professional evaluation standards should be used in evaluation practices, and meta-evaluations should be conducted regularly to ensure evaluation accountability.
First time I came across meta-evaluation was through Dan's work. In fact, I called him and spoke with him to do it on one of our projects, and he initially was going to do it, and then it didn't work out. But he was very kind. I remember talking with him. It was, again, 20 years ago or something like that. But you were recently elected to the AA Board of Directors. What are some things that you'd like to accomplish while you're in that position?
Well, I'm very honored to be entrusted to serve in that position, to become part of the leadership of the American Evaluation Association. I hope to contribute to AEA's well-being, growth, and impact in at least 3 aspects. One is the international outreach and impact. I want to advocate for and promote the international outreach and AEA's international presence and programs to create a bigger impact globally. And second, I want to better service our membership and clients and audiences. Thirdly, the inclusion and diversity of AEA and its membership. In March, together with the leadership team of AEA, we issued a statement clearly stating that the association condemns any and all forms of discrimination against Asian Americans, the Asians, Pacific Islanders, and other groups. The association is committed to foster inclusivity in all of its programs and activities, and calls for its members to redouble their efforts to effect critical changes needed to improve the professional climate of the association.
Which I appreciate that. Which books do you like to give as a gift or recommend to people, to your colleagues, friends, and why?
Okay, 2 books. One is, of course, the SIP evaluation model book. Besides people who wish to learn to conduct the evaluations, it's beneficial for anyone to learn some knowledge about how to evaluate, that is, to judge the value of things in his or her life. The second, here's the book that I wrote a few years ago, called Dragon Mom, Eagle Mom, Raising Great Children with Chinese and American Integrated Education. This is a book that I wrote about how parents and teachers can combine the strength of American and Chinese education and provide the ideal education to our children. We know that U.S. education's top strength is the foster creativity in children. And the top strength of education in China is holding children to higher education standards. So effectively combine both strengths will give us the best of both worlds and develop children's creativity as well as academic excellence.
Is it a challenge to combine those two? Like, do they conflict in some way, or can they, or just it's all about how you implement it? Can you talk a little bit about that? That's really interesting.
You're right. You know, the culture of China and the U.S. culture is so different in the way parents are thinking about their children and about education, and teachers' way of teaching and thinking are very different. So it is very challenging. That's why it takes a book to talk about how we can effectively combine the two cultures and draw the strength from the two education systems. And,
is the book available in multiple languages, or is it?
Currently, it's mainly in Chinese. It has some English subtitles, but that's yet to be developed into the different languages. But if people have interest, and they can contact me, and I'll be able to talk in the language needed to better communicate the ideas, the concepts.
Well, great. That's a fascinating idea. I'd love to hear more about it, learn more about it. So is there more information aside from the book about that notion, about how to combine the two, or have you done other sorts of posts or any other kind of resources that are available in English that we could share, or anything like that? Or that's something you'd like to do more of, or yeah?
Well, yeah, I actually founded a family education institute, American Family Education Institute, called AmericanFEI.org, where I post resources for mainly parents as well as teachers about family education. So that's a website that has a lot of information that teachers and parents can use. AmericanFEI.org.
Oh, great.
It's the American Family Education Institute that I founded almost 10 years ago. So I'm also the anchor host of the Family Education Channel and the American Education Channel on Weibo. I currently have 250,000 followers there, and I regularly post about evaluation and education there.
Oh, that's great. Wow. So I think you've answered probably a little bit of that, but how should people, how should they stay in touch with you, or what other ways to follow the work that you're doing, to connect with you? What are some good ways to do that?
Great. What I mentioned is one way. And also as a board of directors member of AEA, I'm currently working on the bylaws of the American Evaluation Association. I encourage people to join AEA and work together to improve the world. And I'm also on the editorial advisory board of the American Journal of Evaluation. So following the AJE journal will let people stay up to date with the new development in the evaluation field. I can also be found on other social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, ResearchGate, Twitter, and WeChat.
Okay, so we can share your handles and the notes, so people can connect with you as well. Great. Anything else? Anything else you'd like to share? Any other sort of things that would be helpful to share? I know we've covered a lot, but before we wrap up,
I think we covered a lot, and you asked great questions, and I thank you for the opportunity, and I enjoyed talking with you, Dr. Pan.
This was so insightful, and really appreciate your time here. And I think this will be helpful for a wide variety of audiences, just to get some insight and direction about how to learn about the SIP model some more, and some other things, and just learn and be able to follow your work. So really appreciate that so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks.